Hey, we're doing a twofer today, second bonus video. You didn't see that coming. Well, my plans got derailed because I need to renew my Microsoft Word package. Don't you just love that? So the Most High is showing me take an extra couple of days to do your documents correctly, and I'll send them out on Monday because obviously I'm getting slowed down. I'm jamming too much stuff, and it's better to take your time when you do that stuff, especially when it comes to the law, as we've been learning. So I wanted to go into the Hercules gene because that came up in some of my study, and it's just funny because I'm sure a lot of people have seen this scientific journal that I'm about to read. Even Christopher, one of the guys that I'm learning from, as far as like the 1099 A's and C's, the IRS forms, he actually read from the same article, and it was showing like 3 different variants or mutations, which is interesting. I mean, you can definitely go back into the book of Enoch. You can definitely see how Noah was of a light complexion, and they do say like the fair skin or lighter skin. I mean, I get really tan when I tan, but that our gene or whatever is it's a recessive gene. So it could have happened like pre-flood, because we do know that Noah was shown not to be of the fallen. A lot of people want to speculate and be like, oh, well, he was still Negroid and he had these features and that. Okay, fine. But still, that skin color is still there, right? The recessive gene. And when he was born, his father was like so scared, right? He had to, like, what did he had to inquire with Enoch to find out that it was indeed his son. But I didn't realize National Geographic kind of did their own little spiel, so this should be my thumbnail, because I'm like, ooh, that really spoke to me, that picture, right? And we see a lot of that in the media. Like, they'll always show like these blended couples. Some people think, oh, they're pushing that. I'm like, I think they're just showing what happened in history. I think that's what they're depicting, that there was some type of blending, because you see that today. I mean, I have family members who married, men of dark skin and of other nations and things like that. I too had a daughter with the so-called, Edomite, you can call them, and they come out all different colors. My daughter has more of like the Israelite nose and all that, but her skin, it's like she can't. It's like it's hard for her to tan. Like, I thought she would at least come out darker than me, but so no, she's pretty fair skinned, but she has like really tight curly hair, and she has all of those like really nice features or whatever. So just it's just funny how Europe evolved, right? But I'm gonna read a little bit because there's different. I read from this. Let me get my big head out of your way. Let me open that up for you. Yeah, since I have a little bit of time before my guests arrive, which I'm doing 50 things at once. I was doing my law stuff, but that will be put on ice. You got to learn how to prorate your time. And I'm like, let me put this up because that darn Hercules thing came up. So again, with a lot of us who are studying, right? It's like, we comment, because I'm like, oh, I can't get away from this word Hercules. When people act all extra aggressive, I'm like, Hercules. I call them Hercules. So how Europeans evolved white skin. Ancient DNA from skeletons show dramatic natural selection on skin color and height in many Europeans. So you see her eyes, my eyes are like that. Like when I get really emotional, my eyes will be like really amber. They're almost like on fire. But when I was young, I had like light hair, brown, maybe a little bit darker than this. But they say that I forget the term for this, when you have like 2 different colors in your eye. There's one called where, of course, now I can't think of it. I'm sure you can research, but how like there's one type where you'll have like one color eye, and then the other one will be completely different. And then you'll have another type where there'll be like two different colors. So mine's is just like that. It's like green on the outside, and you got that amber on the inside. And believe it or not, it like changes like upon your mood and stuff. It's like it looks gold. But these are traits that evolved recently in Central and Southern Europe. So when you go into it, this is a new study. We already, a lot of us know about this right here, so I'll just start here. The origins of European have come into sharp focus in the past year as researchers have sequenced the genomes of ancient populations, rather than only a few individuals, by comparing key parts of the DNA across the genomes of 83 ancient individuals from archaeological sites throughout Europe. The international team of researchers reported earlier this year that Europeans today are a mix of the blending of at least 3 ancient populations of hunter-gatherers and farmers who moved into Europe in separate migrations over the past 8,000 years. The study revealed that a massive migration of Yamnaya herders from the steppes north of the Black Sea may have brought Indo-European languages to Europe about 4,500 years ago. So I guess talks about the LCT gene in this one. First, the scientists confirmed an earlier report that the hunter-gatherers in Europe could not digest the sugars in milk 8,000 years ago. According to a poster, they also noted an interesting twist. The first farmers also couldn't digest milk. The farmers who came from the Near East about 7,800 years ago, and the Yamnaya pastoralists who came from the steppes 4,800 years ago, lacked the version of the LCT gene that allows adults to digest sugars in milk. It wasn't until 4,300 years ago that lactose tolerance swept through Europe. So when it comes to color, the team found a patchwork of evolution in different places and 3 separate genes that produce light skin, telling a complex story of how European skin evolved to be much lighter during the past 8,000 years. The modern humans who came out of Africa to originally settle Europe about 40,000 years ago are presumed to have dark skin, which is advantageous in sunny latitudes. And the new data confirms that about 8,500 years ago, early hunter-gatherers in Spain, Luxembourg, and Hungary also had darker skin. They lacked versions of 2 genes, SLC24A5 and SLC45A2, that lead to depigmentation and therefore pale skin in Europeans today. But in the far north, where low light levels would favor pale skin, the team found a different picture in hunter-gatherers. 7 people from the 7,700-year-old Matola archaeological site in southern Sweden had both light skin gene variants SLC24A5 and SLC45A2. They also had a third gene. You can't make this up. Hercules. HERC2 /OCA2. So you got the HERC. Why would they name it that? Which causes blue eyes and may also contribute to light skin and blonde hair. Thus, ancient hunter-gatherers of the far north were already pale and blue-eyed, but those of Central and Southern Europe had darker skin. That's funny. I have a first cousin who was born with blue eyes and blonde hair, because my aunt married a man like that with the blue eyes and stuff. But within my immediate family, no. We either got the brown or like my sister has more of like a green. To me, she probably got some damn Hercules gene. You should see her. She's in her 50s and she's ripped and she's like psychotic when it comes to working out. Definitely into the Greek customs, but for I mean, she's pretty petite like me, and she's pretty freaking strong. You know, you'd be like, "What the hell?" You wouldn't expect it. It says that then the first farmers from the Near East arrived in Europe. They carried both genes for light skin as they interbred with the indigenous hunter-gatherers. One of their light skin genes swept through Europe, so that Central and Southern Europeans also began to have lighter skin. The other gene variant, SLC45A2, was at low levels until about 5,800 years ago, when it swept up to high frequency. The team also tracked complex traits such as height, which are the result of the interaction of many genes. They found that selection strongly favored several gene variants. You know how it's like variants? It's funny how they talk about all this pandemic stuff online and stuff, and like I said, it's almost like they're talking about bloodlines, because they too talk about that in like terms like variants and lineage and all that. So it makes me think of this type of stuff. Right here it says, so there's variants for tallness in Northern and Central Europeans starting 8,000 years ago, with a boost coming from the Yamnaya migration starting 4,500 years ago. The Yamnaya have the greatest genetic potential for being tall of any of the populations, which is consistent with measurements of their ancient skeletons. In contrast, selection favored shorter people in Italy and Spain starting 8,000 years ago, according to the paper now posted on the bioRxiv preprint servers. Spaniards in particular shrank in stature 6,000 years ago. Perhaps, you know, of course they're going to give you bullshit. Yeah, it's going to do all that. So, yeah, so, you know, my family, we're very small, but they're different so-called variants, right? But the tall gene is the Yamnaya, you know, so that's more prevalent in the taller populations, but it also shows, in contrast, selection. I'd have to look into it, what they mean. Favored shorter people. So, like, by so-called natural selection, some of the tribes, like, got shorter. That could happen, too, right? They could have, you know, changed, you know, the face of the culture, so you could go into that, too. That, you know, what is that? You know, now I'm curious. No, that's how our minds work. So you can go into this one, too. Of course. Oh, I didn't even know, but natural selection. Of course. So what does it say? Let's read it quickly. Because, of course, I mean, some of the tribes just could have got smaller, but still have the variant, right? So this is an abstract from 8,000 years of net. It's so funny how they're so obsessed with this topic, right? Just studying the human race in general. The abstract of farming in Europe, beginning around 8,500 years ago, required adaptation to new environments, pathogens, diets, and social organizations. While evidence of natural selection can be revealed by studying patterns of genetic variation in present-day people, this pattern are only indirect echoes of past events and provide little information about where and when selection occurred. Ancient DNA makes it possible to examine populations as they were before, during and after adaptation events, and thus to reveal the tempo and mode of selection. Here we report the first genome-wide scan for selection using ancient DNA based on 83 human samples from Holocene Europe, analyzed at over 300,000 positions. We find 5 genome-wide signals of selection at low-key associated with diet and pigmentation. Surprisingly, in light of suggestions of selection on immune traits associated with the advent of agriculture and denser living conditions, we find no strong sweeps associated with immunological phenotypes. We also report a scan for selection for complex traits and find 2 signals of selection on height. For short stature in Iberia after the arrival of agriculture, and so the agricultural tribes, not they started to do farming and the types of food made them shrink. That's not how things work, right? So the arrival of the agricultural societies probably, and for tall stature on the Pontiac Caspian steep earlier, so like that would the Pontiac, or I know I'm thinking of the car, what's wrong with me? I'm sure it's the same origin. Pontic Caspian steppe would be considered the Yamnaya, right? 5,000 years prior. A surprise is that in Scandinavia, or Scandinavian, hunter-gatherers living around 8,000 years ago, there is a high frequency of the derived allele at the EDAR gene that is the strongest known signal of selection in East Asians, and that is thought to have arisen in East Asia. These results document the power of ancient DNA to reveal features of past adaptation that cannot be understood from analysis of present-day people. So you got East Asia comes to play too. A lot of that comes up, but this is an interesting reference. I'll put that for you. And it's just interesting pictures here because people think, oh, they have to have the same, the note. Like, there are many people with dark skin with like pointy noses too. Like, you see them with all kind of noses. So, whatever happened in Enoch too could have just been a recessive gene too that happened over time. Obviously, there were different migrations. There were different times in history these interminglings occur. It already shows that we derived from the melanated woman. The white man has gone to extreme lengths to distort and demean black people when it has been easier to simply ignore them altogether. This is from the origin. Everyone has their different, this is a different source, but of course the information is still very interesting, right? Because a lot of people talk about this, and I love the pictures because we've seen these before, like how, melanated people can make a white baby, but not the other way around. But it says black people when it could have been easier to simply ignore them altogether. But since the white man detests black people so much, he has encroached on Europe and Western Asia and Australia and in the Americas and even in their own homeland of Africa. So there, he has his questions. So it tells you how a lot of them, hide the history. So he says that the white race is still very embarrassed, defensive about his ancestry, which began as a result of the albinos in Africa, who are the offspring of African parents, banding together and journeying to North Asia around 5th, that's, the timeline, but Asia keeps coming up too, as part of a second migration wave. Take a look at these photos of a black Brazilian woman, right, whose husband is also black, and they have 5 children, 3 of them whom are albinos, that is white. That is funny. The photo on the left shows a Nigerian family in London with their 3rd child who was born white. Look at that hair, it's so light too. The white race has sought to dismiss the origins of its own civilization, which really originated from the black culture of Africa, by falsely claiming it is as Greek in origin. Well, Greek and, the Greeks were this color too. So again, You have to know your history. By doing, they attempt to avoid the true origin of their white skin, which is a mutation. Again, when they talk about all these sicknesses, because you say the word and it's like, alert, alert, the damn thought police. It's so damn queer. I'm sick of it. But, what makes you think? They're obviously talking about groups of people. And they say it's a genetic deficiency, albinism. A lot of people already had shown that, Because, of course, why are they so obsessed? They have this Human Genome Project. It says an international attempt to decode the information embedded in the human genome and confirmed by scientists in the East Room of the White House on June 2000 stated, "We all evolved in the last 100,000 years from the same small number of tribes that migrated out of Africa and colonized the world. All human beings are 99.9% the same." And we've heard the word albino comes from the Latin root albus, meaning white, but it can also mean blank, as in devoid of color or feature. The word was coined around 1660 to mean white Negro. There you go. So when you hear that term Negro, there are different connotations. By Baltazar, I know a girl who named her son that, Tellez, a historian and missionary, in order to describe the tribal members he saw along the West African coast. Other words include leuco and ethrope, a Greek word. Got that leuco, or Lucas, or Luca. Well, they say filthy Luca, and people talking about Luca, the term like, yeah, Luke, maybe like Lucifer too, right? Because they say like he's the morning star, he's bright, maybe make you think of light too, but that Luke, is that Luke again? A Greek word for white, a Leuco-Ethiopian, meaning white Ethiopians. The albinos were also called moon children because they had to avoid being exposed to excessive direct sunlight before they usually only came outdoors during the night. Another word used was Dundas, meaning ghost, or spirit, that is a body walking around without a soul. How sad. Black parents unable to explain why white-skinned children would appear in their offspring became suspicious and believed that albinism was a punishment from God. Yeah, leprosy, and the child with albinism cursed or was an embodiment of sin. So they began separating the growing number of white-skinned offspring from the natural black-skinned population. Those with albinism were either banished or thrown out of the tribes and forced to live in colonies in much the same way that people with leprosy, were forced to live in leper colonies. Oh, and they got the colonies here in New England. Fabulous. It's all coming together for me. Freaking hell. So yeah, forced to live in colonies. That's just freaking wonderful. And I lost my place, of course, away from normal people. So rejected by their own family and friends as outcasts, the white-skinned offspring and African parents banded together into various groups and began migrating northward through Egypt into another part of the African continent, which is, another part. See how they rename everything? Yeah, because a lot of people had said that it used to also be called, which is currently called Europe. So Europe, African continent, you see, in search of better living conditions and to escape the intensity of the hot climate of Central, Eastern, and Southern Africa. The albino groups moved into the Caucasus, an area of mountain ranges, plateaus, and forests during the Ice Age that lasted for thousands of years. And this further isolated them from their original black parents in Africa. After living under these isolated conditions for such a prolonged period of time, these African albinos began interbreeding within the existing groups and produced even more albino offsprings. So that's fascinating. And they were classified right here. The ancient black people of Egypt classified white people as the devil race, and in their writings referred to them as Typhonians, which translates into English as white devils. These Typhonians later left Europe and overran the established black civilizations in the Near East, creating considerable havoc. So as a result of their violent nature, they were rounded up by the Africans, stripped of everything they had, and banished to the caves and hills of the Caucasus Mountains, where they were roped off. This was recorded by European historians like Pliny. There was a time, however, when the Typhonians once got the upper hand in Egypt, but they were driven out by Taharka, one of the great black kings from the land of Cush, who is known in the Bible as Turhaka. Here is a Musi tribeswoman nursing her albino baby in Ethiopia. Being totally cut off from the civilized world, these Typhonians degenerated into uncivilized nomadic savages until sometime around 1200 BC, when hordes of these barbarians left the Caucasus Mountains and stormed all the black centers of civilization that had once banished them, making war not only with the black but also with the brown, red, and yellow nations, effectively destroying and usurping entire regions and taking whatever possessions they could get their hands on. To this day, they continue to wage war against all people of color, especially the Negro, their parents. Wow, deep. The white man entered Europe as illiterate horse nomads who could not and did not begin to record his history until he had first absorbed all the knowledge of the conquered blacks in Europe, the creators of the original European civilizations. The earliest known black European writing was the linear A script, which first appeared in Crete during the Middle Minoan period. But after the Caucasian invasions around 1200 BC, all writing ceased, and the Green Dark Ages began. It's the first time I'm hearing that. The arrival of the white man therefore marked the beginning of the demise of the ancient black civilizations and the beginning of the white man's rise to power. The word Caucasian may have originated from Caucasus, the mountain region where these barbarians were cordoned off. The Shahnameh, the Zend Avesta, and other sources refer to the white people who were cordoned off in the hills of West Asia as devils or demons. Oh boy, bad, bad. Zarathustra also wrote at length about what he witnessed as the obligation to wage war against the Caucasian invaders, whom he had also referred to as devils. Some of the earliest evidence available can be found in the records of the ancient Egyptians, who referred to the devil or Satan by various names, such as Seth, Typhon, and Apapus, which were some of the more common terms used. Throughout the writings of the ancient Egyptians, the white race was known as the people of Seth, or devils. The Egyptian priest Menetho also referred to these white people as Typhonians. Diodorus likewise spoke of a section of foreigners who were driven out of Egypt, describing them as men the color of Typhon. Well, that's wild. J.A. Wainwright, in his book The Sky Religion in Egypt, wrote about the discovery of fragments from an ancient Egyptian text in which the Typhonians, or followers of Seth, were referred to. Among other things, it is shown that as late as the 19th century, a section of the Egyptians were known to be followers of Seth or Typhonians by certain marks and characteristics. These marks and characteristics, they set apart the Typhonians or devils from the original black people of Egypt, where their hair and the pinkish or red color of their skin The red men or Typhonians in Egypt were white people who were sacrificed by fire for the good of the people. Of such it is said, the god in him is Seth. Another damaged sentence referred to the red man and his hair. So that's interesting. Obviously, we know that Edom is not white, or how they try to say it is and stuff, but it just gives you an interesting understanding, though. Just an interesting theory, but it goes to show a lot of these genes were recessive, because when you read in Enoch 2, I mean, he wasn't considered part of the fallen, even though when he was born, he was very scary when he was first born, and he was really white. But it makes you think, because there has been so much so-called natural selection. I mean, you see stuff like this all the time. You see people blending even today all the time, and a lot of things are recessive, right? It just makes me think of my daughter, just like, some of those pictures with those albinos. She looks like an albino. She got like the wide nose, and you know what I mean? She got the dimples and everything. So like my upper lip is like really small. She didn't get my lip. She got like really, her lips are a little fuller, but her nose definitely. So my nose is a little different, obviously, but you'll even see people of color. Like sometimes their nose will be like that too. Like, there's different tribes and stuff, but it's just funny. And then you see all these mutations they talk about, right? But then you got that Hercules gene, and I was trying to show some of those guys that look like the werewolf man. That was coming up in some of the Hercules movies, and Jason and the Argonauts and all that. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, they went to a island, and they would like all these hairy men creatures coming out trying to kill them. I'm like, it's freaking wild, man. And then you see on Maury Povich, they try to say it's just a condition. You've seen so many people that are like so wonky looking, but they put it on like these talk shows, and they make you think it's all just, yeah, okay, it's just, okay, you can call all of these variants, rare conditions, but when they talk about all this stuff on the news, and making you think you have to get, injected for it, like why? Like, because it sounds like you're just talking about damn bloodlines in different areas. For all we know, they could be trying to genocide the white race right now. A lot of people say that's kind of what's going on right now. A lot of people are dropping like flies, So that's why I thank the Most High every day that I can even do this. Every day's a gift. Every day's a gift. Sometimes I'm deep in my sleep, and the dreams are like so wild. I feel like I'm in a whole other realm, and you are in another realm. Like, I feel like I'm living two lives, guys, because I'll wake up like, I was just doing all these things, and now I'm in this realm. It's pretty wild. So he's always showing us different jokes and stuff. So this is my bonus video. Did not expect it. Of course, I don't want it as long as the other one, and I'm going to get back to it. And I just thought that was wild, because we were going into the Hercules, right? So this came, where did I get this from? So I got this originally from this article, and then you click on that and it goes to the other one. But this is where you get the Hercules. So there's like 3 variants, right? 3 so-called mutations, let's just call it. And I didn't put this name. They name one literally Hercules, HERC2. You see it right there, right? HERC. Too funny. Light skin, or the blue eye people. So yeah, I just got one cousin that looks like that. That's funny, but I got a niece that looks like that too. And yeah, so it's like a recessive thing. So we'll like skip a couple of lines or whatever, but I've seen it, guys. I've seen it. And it shows a lot of them through natural selection can get smaller too. I mean, everyone in my family, we're a short bunch, not much height going there. My daughter's actually taller than me already, so that's great, because her dad wasn't that tall. So there you go, more recession coming through, I suppose. But a lot to work with, guys, and I appreciate Chris. He's one of my law mentors, he actually read from this too. So it was pretty wild how many people are understanding this concept. So it's just it's a pretty cool thing because it brings it all to life, you know, the Bible, and bringing all of this you know, actual research, you know, the searching again of these facts, and that even science is catching up, because science is very slow, but they know the Bible very well, and this is great to actually confirm a lot of the Bible stories too, right? So really cool stuff. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. May the Most High inspire you and keep you safe in all that you do. And I will put this as my thumbnail. That's a pretty wild picture. That'll grab your attention, hopefully, right? So yeah, read all this stuff for yourself, and I think that yeah, you will definitely be informed on a broader level. So have a wonderful day, guys, and thank you so much.